Manila never really sleeps. Even at midnight, the distant hum of jeepneys, stray dogs barking, and occasional laughter from late-night street vendors remind you that life here continues, even when the world grows quiet. But sometimes, in that thin space between night and dawn, when the air turns colder and the sky feels heavier, you realize you are not alone. Not in this city, not even in your own car. That night, taxi driver Raymond Santos learned that truth the hard way. It was a Friday, just past 2:15 a.m. A light drizzle was falling, smearing the city lights into ghostly shapes on his windshield. Raymond rubbed his tired eyes and exhaled. Long hours meant good money, sure, but they also meant fatigue, and lately, strange shadows flickering in his peripheral vision that he just blamed on being exhausted. He turned into a quieter road that ran alongside the Manila North Cemetery, one of the oldest and largest burial grounds in the entire city. The walls stretched on, cracked with moss and grime, with tombstones barely visible through the iron bars. It was a route people avoided at night. Too many stories. Too many souls. His radio, which had been playing some old love song, crackled with static, then fell silent. Great, he muttered. Not tonight. Just as he was fiddling with the dial, he spotted movement up ahead, someone standing near the main gate of the cemetery. An old man. He was wearing a faded barong, the traditional Filipino dress shirt. His hair was wispy and white, his back was stooped, and his hands were clasped behind him like someone waiting patiently. He looked like the kind of man you'd expect to see feeding pigeons in Rizal Park, not lingering near the dead at 2 in the morning. Raymond slowed the taxi down. The old man stepped closer to the curb, raising a hand politely. His face looked hollow, so tired. Raymond hesitated for a moment. Every ghost story he'd ever heard began just like this. But then the rain started coming down harder, drumming against the roof of his cab. Sighing, he reached over and unlocked the door. The old man opened it slowly and climbed inside, moving with the kind of stiffness you see in bones that have been unused for a very, very long time. Good evening, the old man whispered. His voice was as thin as crushed leaves. His smile was kind, but his eyes were distant. Like he had lived far too long and seen far too much. Raymond just nodded politely. Where to, Tete? He asked, using the respectful term for an elder. Panican, the old man replied softly. Near the old church. Raymond lifted an eyebrow. That was a long way off, but a fair was a fair. He pulled away from the cemetery, glancing once more in his rearview mirror at the looming graves behind them. As they drove, the old man sat perfectly still, hands folded neatly in his lap, staring straight ahead. He didn't seem to blink much. He didn't move much at all. The silence in the car started to feel heavy. Raymond cleared his throat, trying to make some small talk. Were you visiting someone at this hour, Tay? Silence, just the sound of the tires on the wet road. Then, in a voice that almost sounded like a sigh, the old man said, I was waiting. For who? Raymond asked, curious. The old man turned his head so slowly, it almost looked painful. His eyes met Raymond's in the rearview mirror. For you, Raymond's heart jumped into his throat. A nervous little laugh escaped him. You mean for a taxi? The old man just held his gaze, unblinking. Yes, a ride I have waited many years to take. A cold wash went through Raymond's chest. He forced himself to look back at the road and keep driving. The city lights blurred past. The radio stayed dead, and the rain tapped like fingers against the glass. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Raymond saw the sign for Panican. Dim street lamps flickered overhead, casting long dancing shadows. Where exactly, Tay? He asked, his voice a little shaky now. The old man lifted a trembling hand, pointing. Just ahead, the second corner. You may stop there. Raymond pulled over beside an old, run-down house. The windows were boarded up. The garden was completely swallowed by weeds. There were no lights on, no signs of life at all. Raymond turned in his seat. That will be, he froze. The back seat was empty. The old man was gone. There was no sound. no click of the door. He had just vanished, as if he had evaporated into thin air. A deep chill crawled right down Raymond's spine. His breath hitched in his throat. His hands started shaking violently, gripping the steering wheel. "No, no, no," he whispered. He frantically flicked on the dome light. The seat was empty, and it was dry, completely untouched. No footprints on the floor mat. Nothing. Then something tapped his window. *TOK. Raymond flinched and snapped his head around. Outside, standing right where the sidewalk met the darkness, was the old man. He was smiling. But this time, his expression wasn't gentle at all. His eyes were hollow black pits, and his mouth was stretched far too wide, in a way that was too unnatural to be human. Raymond's blood turned to ice. The old man lifted one shaking finger and pointed directly at Raymond. Then, he slowly pointed back in the direction of the cemetery, as if he was reminding him. Taking you home. Raymond slammed his foot on the gas. The tires screeched on the wet pavement as the taxi shot forward. His heart was pounding like a drum about to burst. He didn't stop driving, didn't even slow down, until he reached a brightly lit street filled with people and noise again. He pulled over, gasping for breath, sweat soaking his entire shirt. He bent forward, gripping the wheel, trying to make sense of what just happened. But the night offered no answers. Later, when he finally got the courage to tell other taxi drivers about it, some of them just nodded quietly. Others stared at him, their faces pale. One of the older drivers finally leaned in and whispered, "You saw him too." Raymond swallowed hard. "Who?" "The old man from Manila North Cemetery," the driver said. "Many say he died waiting for a ride decades ago. A heart attack right there by the gate. He had no family, no funeral. So every few years, someone picks him up." "And then?" Raymond asked, his voice barely a whisper. The old driver's voice lowered to a tremor. "He finds his way back. But he needs someone to give him that last ride." Raymond shuddered. From that day on, he would always check his rearview mirror, terrified that one night he might see that pale face again, waiting, riding silently, and disappearing just before dawn. Because in Manila, the dead don't always rest. Some of them still have places they need to go. And sometimes, they need your help getting there. So if you ever find yourself driving past Manila North Cemetery late at night, and you see a lone old man standing in the rain, looking at your car, lifting his hand slowly, ask yourself, do you really want to stop? Because the dead travel too. They just don't always tell you when they're getting off. Thanks for joining me on this chilling ride. If you love stories that linger in the shadows, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there, and until next time, watch your mirrors.